Hey guys, this is David Whitney, and I am making a video essay on the modern hand chip implant. And if you know anything about the Bible, this is what I believe is a foretelling of what is to come, that all men, great and small, will not be able to buy or sell without a mark on their hand or forehead. So without any further ado, here's the video.
Would it be possible to hit a few headlines with one of my favorite OG Daily Show correspondents?
Go for it. Let's see. What do you got?
Well, actually, I'm going to give you the first story.
All right. Here we go. So, a story from the BBC. And you know how credit cards now have that little contactless chip, right? So you don't need to swipe. You can just tap your card. You don't need to swipe, right? So now you can get that implanted in your hand. The chip is the size of a grain of rice and is encased in biopolymer. And you hold your hand over a sensor and boop, your bill is paid. Boop. You can freak out your waitresses paying with your hand. Now that is priceless, right?
I don't like this one. But you know, like that terrible nightmare when you're at an auction and you wave at a friend and then you just bought a painting. Imagine you just walk by, beep, bop, boop.
Well, that's what I'm worried about. I think this is going to be a problem. You could walk through Bed Bath & Beyond and come out with a $6,000 bill because you talk with your hands.
Yes.
You know, I just don't know.
I don't like it. The only chip I want in my hand is a Pringle. Thank you very much.
Listen to this. Instead of carrying your wallet in your back pocket or your purse, a tech company wants you to keep it under your skin.
All right, so let's explain here. Walletmore is selling microchips implanted in your hand as an alternate payment. Could this be the future? Maybe. Once you set up your card info in the company's app, look at this. It says payments could be as easy as swiping your hand over a card reader. Right now, chips are not sold in the U.S. Crazy.
There's a natural overlap between body hackers and the blockchain movement. And here at Body Hacks 2019, a 2-day conference in Austin, Texas, I'm planning on joining these couple hundred people who can officially call themselves cyborgs by getting something implanted too.
So I've just watched a bunch of videos about getting implants.
For me though, it'll be much less gruesome. I'm just getting an NFC-enabled microchip implant. It's housed in glass, about the size of a grain of rice, and so it fits inside a hollow 14-gauge needle. The needle goes in, the implant gets pumped out, the needle comes back out. It hurts about as much as giving blood or getting a piercing, and it gets injected most often between the thumb and index finger. And it's secured by this blockchain. That's the implanter's joke. Some attendees had programmed their chips to open RFID safes and doors, unlock their phones, and send their contact information to other phones, and some had even hacked their way into creating an authorization for accessing their Bitcoin holdings. That last use case, that's what I'm looking for. So on the last day of the conference, I sat down and a minute later excitedly exclaimed, "I'm a cyborg."
Thank you for your cooperation.
The implant I got, the VivoKey Spark, currently allows users to send an NFC-enabled phone to their profile page or to whatever website they choose. For the test, and to shamelessly promote my content, I set the implant to send a phone to the Bitcoin at 10 website.
It did in fact take me to Bitcoin at 10.
Can I try?
Yes. Now we'll try with another person's phone. cool, huh?
Next, I set it to take my phone to my Receive Bitcoin QR code, making it easy for people out and about to scan that code and tip me some crypto.
$2?
I guess, if that's all you're willing to give me, cheapskate.
And in a week or so, VivoKey will be launching a new API that will allow users to program the chip to act as an authenticator key. With this, I should be able to request that every time I want to send or transfer Bitcoin out of an open source wallet, it'll ask me to scan the chip to validate that transaction. And that way, the chip will act as a unique security measure that might make my hand as valuable as Clean Eyes in Minority Report.
But seriously, don't take my hand. I don't have that much crypto.
Welcome back. When was the last time you wrote an actual check or bought something with cash? Swiping and tapping our cards and our apps are not just the easiest way to spend money, they're the safest way, unless, of course, we misplace our phones or our wallets, and then it's a nightmare. It is hard to misplace your hands, however. And soon your hand may be all that you need to buy anything that you can afford and many things that you can't. Because a company called Walletmore is developing a very teeny tiny chip. You see it there in the X-ray? That should creep you out. The chip is like the ones that are found in smart credit cards or debit cards, and the chip gets embedded just under your skin and makes your whole hand a credit card. Joining me now is Wojtek Perota. He's the CEO and founder of Walletmore. Okay, Wojtek, this is so futuristic and out there, but walk me through how it actually works.
Hey, so first of all, thanks for having me. Let's look at the chip as a super small card that you can use wherever contactless payments are accepted. So it's exactly the same NFC technology, which stands for near field communication, and therefore it can be used only for the near field communication payments. So therefore you cannot be tracked, you cannot be monitored, you cannot be spied with that implant because it's exactly the same technology as credit card.
So here's my worry, is that you can accidentally buy something by just having your hand too close to a machine, or you could accidentally have your data all stolen by shaking someone's hand, because a lot of times we protect our cards in cases that can't be penetrated. But if it's in your hand, it's really hard to do that.
It's not that simple, to be honest. First of all, you cannot lose money when you are shaking hands with anyone, because the implant is the passive tag and it doesn't have any internal source of energy. And therefore, the only option to get the read of that implant is to put it in the near field of terminal. So therefore, the other implant, which is inside of the other person's hand, is not capable of processing information. You need to have that source of energy, and only terminals that you can see at the moment are capable of providing that energy. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you definitely cannot lose your money because of the fact that you tap in a random place. Why? Because the implant is so small compared to the credit card. Normally, of course, when you tap the credit card, the terminal, it gets the read instantly. With the implant, it's a little bit different because you need to be super precise. And therefore, if someone is touching your hand, finding this perfect sweet spot, because that's how we need to look at it, you would realize at least 10 times that something is going on with your hand. So that's
Do you have it? Wojtek, do you have it in your hand right now?
Yeah, of course. Actually, the X-ray that you saw was for my hand, and that's how it looks on my hand.
So show me your hand. Is it possible to see it at all? It's just barely standing out, right? Like it looks like maybe a little like a scar.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm popping it a little bit.
Oh man, that's crazy. Did you have a doctor insert it?
Yeah, of course, that's part of the deal, because we are only building the implants. And when it comes to the installations, we want the whole experience to be as safe as possible. And therefore, we built a network of partners all across Europe and the US. So therefore, if you are ordering an implant from our site, it's of course shipped to you, but then you need to schedule the appointment with one of the specialists who will just set it up for you.
So do you use it? Like, do you go up to a cashier and say, yeah, I'll just tap my hand? And if that's the case, what's the reaction from the sales clerks?
Yeah, of course. I've been testing it myself since the very beginning. I have been the first person to get it installed. And reactions are pretty wild, to be honest. Sometimes people just don't care, but because when they are stuck in the office for like 10 hours, they just do not care. They just care about having the payment to be processed. But sometimes the reactions are really extreme, because when I tap my hand and there's clearly nothing hidden inside of the glove or anything else, anywhere else, they are just asking, how the hell is that possible? You need to have a watch somewhere down here in your shirt. But when I'm just taking it down and seeing and showing that, okay, there's nothing out there, then the conversation begins. But in most cases, it turns out to be like a positive conversation, because as long as explain how it works and what's actually inside, they're pretty much optimistic about it. So there is an instance.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's still a lot of regulatory there. I mean, this is a long way before it's mass market appeal, but it is really interesting to see that you're on the leading edge of this and that you're doing it yourself as your lead guinea pig. Wojciech Paprota, thanks so much for being on. I want to stay with you on this story to see how you do with the business. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
Hi, this is Dr. Bertalan Mescu, the medical futurist. And today I want to talk about RFID chips and whether or not it's a good idea to implant one.
So you have something else that's really interesting in the newsletter about people in Sweden putting implants, microchips, right, into them. We've seen something like this here. There was a company that
in Wisconsin,
right, so they could get stuff out of the vending machine with these microchips. So what's happening in Sweden?
In the past couple of years, Sweden has seen a growing number of people getting microchips implanted under their skin. It was once a very niche thing among the most dedicated biohackers, but now it's becoming mainstream in the tech-savvy and open-minded Scandinavian nation. And I'm a proud geek, so I wanted to get one too. RFID technology has been around for a long time. It is a tag or a label that can exchange data with a reader through radio frequency, or RF, hence the name. There are thousands of applications for it. We use them in our credit cards, we tag our luggage with it, and we implant our pets with it, so they always carry contact information in case they get lost. It's a simple but wonderful technology. What's new is that now we can implant it in our body too. I asked my community if anyone has done it, and Erik Orlovsky, a Swedish anthropologist, came through, so I asked him what his experience was like.
Hi, my name is Eric, and I recently returned from my 3 months thesis fieldwork in Sweden, researching microchips, and now I'm here to answer a few questions about them. About popularity, I think it's important to understand that there's only about 5,000 people in Sweden with an implant, and out of a population of 10 million, so they're relatively popular but not super widespread. Much of the relative popularity, I think, stems from Sweden being a very tech-optimistic culture. So there's this willingness to try out new technologies without necessarily being worried about kind of the big risks or the kind of big things that could go wrong. I have a chip. I got it right here about 3 months ago when I started my research. And I got it for the same reason that I think many of the people I've spoken to have gotten one, and it's curiosity. Obviously, where it stems from is different depending on the individual. And in my case, it stemmed directly from my involvement in the research.
Seems fairly easy. With one of those things, you have the option to customize it more. And with the other, it's as simple as it gets for the basic applications. And at this point, I really had to Google what it's like when they inject it.
I want you to take a nice big deep breath in and exhale, release. There we go.
It's in there.
It's in there. Pretty quick and easy.
It's not too bad, right? Apparently it feels like a bee sting, a really big bee sting. And just like that, in a few seconds, you can be part of a yet small group whose members are technically cyborgs. And since I'm a huge fan of science fiction, I find this pretty exciting. But as a physician, I wanted to know more before I was about to commit to a medical procedure altering my body, right? So I prepared a few questions for my surgeon friend, Dr. Zsolt Varga.
Besides the ethical and privacy-related concerns, RFID implants are thought to be medically safe. Millions of pets are already tagged this way, but it must be noted that no long-term large population data for human use is available at the moment. In my opinion, it should be carried out in a clean environment, in aseptic circumstances, preferable by someone with anatomical knowledge and experience in performing basic medical procedures. The full recovery can take up to 4 weeks, but it does not interfere with any daily activities. Medical risks of any other implants are presented, like wound complications, tissue infections, allergic reactions, or post-procedural pain. Latest studies have shown that cancer caused by RFID chips is virtually non-existent in humans and negligible for animals. The removal is a bit more complicated than the insertion. After marking the implant site, local anesthetics should be given, and the device can be removed through a small skin incision. That could be closed either by sutures or other sutureless wound closure methods. I suggest that the removal should be performed by a medical professional.
With all these pieces of information, I thought the rewards outweighed the risks. At least for me. With this chip, I could operate doors, unlock my phone, or even carry my boarding pass at airports. It's awesome. I just needed to get the all-go from my wife as we discuss every body-altering technology that I plan to use. Honey, I want to implant myself with a... So that happened. There are my dreams of becoming a cyborg. Apparently my wife sees a different risk-to-reward ratio. As all RFID chips are hackable, depending on what kind of information I store on my chip, hackers could get access to it. For example, as I said, I could have my phone password right here and unlock it with a wave of my hand, or have all my medical records right here with me at all times. But do I really want to have that information exposed like that? I'm not comfortable with the fact that hackers could access it fairly easily. Another problem is the limitations this technology has right now. It can have a widespread application. You can program a chip for a lot of things, but one chip can only do one thing. And even though the next implant from Dangerous Things has 2 chips in the physical space of 1, it's still not a lot. And even though these chips are passive, meaning they have no internal source of energy and you don't have to change batteries, in case you do want to remove them, as my surgeon friend described, it's way more trouble than implanting them. It requires an actual surgery. So as of now, my RFID enthusiasm is put to rest. The plan is that I'm gonna wait for the tech to catch up with my vision for the future. Because I believe in a few years, chip implants will have better security, bigger capacity, and more customization. We are going to have multiple applications in a single chip. And we're going to see universal standards for digital identification systems and finally surgical protocols for implantation. And further down the line is when it's going to get really exciting, when these things are going to have sensors that will be able to track vital signs to keep our health in check all the time. And with better security, they could revolutionize medical care. Instead of medical data being stored at various hospitals, my GP's office, and at the pharmacy, I could have the chance to establish my own healthcare identity and become the steward of my own data. And imagine all that in a medical emergency situation. The first responders arrive and they only have to scan your hand to get to know every valuable medical information about you. They can spare crucial minutes and really focus on your care. That's when these chips are really going to start changing lives. And that's when I'm going to pitch this idea to my wife again. Because then, the rewards of this thing will truly worth the trouble. Until then, patience. If you like this episode and would like to hear more about body augmentations and real-life cyborgs, click on the link here or subscribe here.